Hey guys, you're listening to NVC of Team Infused, and today we've got the Inwind Dragon Rider, a full tower chassis made almost entirely of steel. I put all the dimensions and additional information you might need to know on the left of the screen. I've also taken the liberty of not doing another unbox video. I'm about sick of them, as I'm sure you are watching me tell you all how to unbox a box. So, with that said, on the right is everything you get inside, with the exception of I've got the white limited edition, and what you can see there is the standard black version. What you do get is the case protected in two foam spaces inside a heavy-duty plastic bag. You also get a detailed instruction manual telling you how to put everything together, what all the cables do, all of that. In addition, you do get two bags full of goodies. One is a CPU power extension, that is the 8-pin PSU lead. That makes sure you're not putting stress on the socket if you do have to route the cable tightly on your standard PSU cable you've got. The extension is going to help there, and also you've got a motherboard speaker which helps with post if you're crashing, find out if it's your memory, your graphics card, whatever. Always useful to have one of those, and great that Inwind have obviously included it. And you also get a screw set for your motherboard, your fans, your heatsink bracket, and anything else you might need. So all in all, everything you would expect, I suppose. So without further ado, let's go ahead to the overview, starting with the exterior panels on the Inwind Dragon Rider limited edition white case. Okay, hello guys, welcome back. Now we're going to have a look at the exterior of the Inwind Dragon Rider White Limited Edition case, starting with the left side panel. This is the main panel, and in here obviously you've got all your components in view. We have got a large mesh open area here. This is going to come in great if you're running a gaming PC, and if you are buying a full tower chassis, you probably are, so do take into account a nice mesh panel if you are buying a new chassis. Just come pre-installed with a single 220mm LED fan controlled by this switch here. I believe there are blue LEDs in here, but you can actually switch it out for 6 120mm fans if you'd like. They have got grommets placed all around the mesh, which is a good thing, because if you are a modder, that's something you may want to do. It'd be nice as well if Inwind can offer window panels as opposed to a mesh panel. A lot of people don't actually use side fans, but if you are running maybe a streaming PC, or maybe you're planning on running Battlefield 3 at max quality while streaming, you definitely want as many fans as you can to keep the CPU especially as cool as possible, as well as multiple GPUs if you're running dual or slide fire setups. Moving across to the side, on the front, you have got 5 bays here for your optical drives, your Blu-ray drives, your DVD drives. You've also got a 3.25 floppy inside one of the 5.25 bays, which you can use. These are easily removable, as you can see. I've already taken the liberty of getting rid of one of them, and the other great thing as well is that the entire front panel does come off, in which case you do see the other 120mm fan here on the front. This is a non-LED fan, which makes sense because you can't actually see through the front panel anyway. So if you keep moving around to the right panel, here you've got another 120mm. This is an LED fan. This actually is quite a rare thing in cases to have it on the right panel, and as a result they have had to make the width significantly larger. As you can see, they've extruded the entire side, and they've also extruded this part as well, which is great for cable management. You're going to be able to route all of your cables from inside of the case outside of the back and back through any grommets you need. So that's cool. I'm not sure which performance improvement you're going to get with this, but it's certainly going to help nonetheless. Why not have it? If you move around to the back of the case, you've got 8 expansion bays here. It's cool to have 8 as well, because if you are running a dual or slide or fire setup with dual GPU slot graphics cards, you're going to need all 8. And a lot of full tower chassis don't actually include 8, they usually have 7, so I'm actually happy we have 8 bays here. I'm not going to be using all of the expansion slots. I actually use a single GPU in my system, but if you do, you are covered. You've also got 4 grommets at the top here for water cooling, which is obviously cool, and also 2 of them you may need to route cables from inside of the case outside towards some of the back ports if you're running expansions, so on and so forth. At the bottom, of course, you've got your bottom mounted PSU. There's also a vent inside if you do run the fan bottom up, which I do in my PSU and my other computer. So this is probably what I would be doing anyway. So just a standard feature, I guess. You've got a 120mm rear fan as well on the back, non-LED again. And I guess that pretty much covers all of the sides, as you can see. So all I do is I get the case turned over and have a look at the bottom and the top. Okay, so starting off at the bottom of the case, you can see we've got the vent here at the bottom for PSU. You've also got feet, which is cool if you are travelling to events or you're running on a carpet. You can at least get some height from the bottom of your case to the ground, which is going to prevent obviously dust, and as well you need to obviously get height for the vent, because that's not going to be a good thing if you're pulling dust into PSU. So the feet are cool. It would have been nice to perhaps see some additional feet with wheels on, but let's be honest, I've never used the wheels in the cases I've had before anyway. I've just always been worried that I would damage my components rolling it about, so I wouldn't use it, but I'm sure some people do, so maybe having the option to remove them and add wheels would have been cool. But apart from that, okay, so here's the top of the case. Again, we've got a single mounted 120mm fan pre-installed, non-LED again. We've also got space for a second 120mm if you'd like to add it, and you've got space above your heatsink. I also believe there's enough space for water cooling systems, but we'll have a look when we get the case opened if you wanted to mount them along the top. I assume so, given we've got grommets all along the back. As for the front panel, we've got two USB 3.0, two USB 2.0, a FireWire 400, and two eSATA ports. We've also got two power buttons that are indented, which obviously means you're not going to press them by mistake, and also you've got your microphone and your headphone ports here if you are using the front panel for that. I always recommend you go to the back, but it's nice to have them on the front if you are at events and so on and so forth. And obviously you've got your LEDs as well. Okay, so let's get inside the case and have a look at the interior. So obviously thumb screws at the back, but you know, if you are going to events, I'd always recommend you do get screws yourself. You do have a screw package inside of that, as I mentioned at the beginning, and also maybe look at a security system that you can purchase from most retailers. A couple of cables that you would route around the desk just to keep everything in place, as well as locking all of your USB cables from your mouse and all of that together. It would help immensely. Thumb screws can be a little bit risky, but you know, if you are just using it at home, thumb screws are much better than standard screws, a lot easier. Side panel, interesting thing about this, you've got foam insulation. Not entirely sure how much this is going to affect sound dampening, if at all it will have, because obviously we've got this massive mesh open area, so any noise will still get through, but every little helps, right? And it's cool that Inwin have obviously included that to try and reduce the effect as much as possible. One thing I'm a little bit worried about is the width of the fan in relation to some of the larger heat sinks, but you know, just check dimensions, confirm everything works okay. If not, you can always replace it with a slimline fan, but just be wary of that inside of the case. Right, so in here obviously we've got our front panel connections. So you've got your two red eSATA, your blue are USB 3.0, your multi-clip ones are your front panel connections, you've got your USB 2.0, you've got your HD audio and the AC97. Always recommend use HD over audio, AC97 just because it's high fidelity, and most newer motherboards have HD audio, so why not use it? And you've got your 1394. What you would normally do is route these around the back, so what I'm going to do is take off the back panel. I will not be building into this computer, but I can at least show you the kind of things you're going to be doing off the bat before you even think about putting your components in. So, again, you've got your other LED fan here. Oh, one thing I should mention actually is that your LED fans go straight into PSU because they're powered by the switch on the left panel. Now, all the other fans in the case, I'm pretty sure, yeah, okay, these go to your motherboard, so you can control the other fans on the case from your motherboard drivers, not motherboard drivers, motherboard software, and maybe even in the BIOS. So you've got every single fan, your front, top and your back, they're powered by the motherboard. The two side ones are powered by the PSU. Will always run at full speed unless you then connect them directly to your motherboard instead, and can only switch the LED on and off. But, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So, what you would do with all these cables essentially is just route them straight through the back, like that. And because there's a lot of grommets everywhere, you can just route them where you need them, but more on that in a few seconds. So, obviously here we've got our two bags. These are your screws and everything we mentioned before, the motherboard buzzer, and here are your PSU extensions. What I will say actually is with the cables, it would have been nice if they were all black. But again, I'm nitpicking, and because you're going to be routing them through the back, you're not going to see the cables anyway. But just an afterthought perhaps. The other cool thing here, of course, is the hard drive bays are rotated 90 degrees. This will mean that if you have got larger graphics cards and the power port goes in from this side, you are not going to run into cables creeping over each other and just have an overall messy case. You're going to be plugging in your mechanical drives this way with the cables coming in from the other side, and again just routing around the back, so that's cool. Some graphics cards will have the powers going in from this side, the 6 or the 8 pin, but most will go from the back of the card itself. On the left of the case you can see we've got a toolless design here. I would be careful, do not put your head in here when you try to open them, because it is like missiles, as you can see. So be careful, but I don't necessarily like toolless designs. I feel much safer when there are screws present. But if I was going to have a plastic toolless mechanism, I think this is one of the best ones you can implement to a case. It's very safe, very sturdy. There's no give at all. It does require a lot of force to close and open them. So I'm happy with these. I don't know if you have an option. Yeah, you also have an option to screw them in if you'd like, from what I can see. But it is a little bit tricky to get to. Nonetheless, the toolless design they've used is very safe, in my opinion. On the bottom again you've got the PSU fan, what I mentioned before, PSU fan, PSU vent, which is going to help with ventilation, to that. Oh, before I forget, this is cool, you've got a load of rails here for your hard drives and everything else. What is this says, your ODD, so your optical drives, and so on and so forth. So nice little neat thing they've included here inside of one of the 5.25 bays. You can even just keep this out of the case for optimum sort of space inside of the case, which is what I would do if I was building. I would just take it out and then store it in a box somewhere. Apart from that, I'm going to guess that's pretty much it. Oh no, the last cool thing is obviously the massive space behind the CPU. This is really cool for your big heat sinks, your brackets. You get a lot of space to work with there. And because there's so many holes as well, here, 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 the back, the right panel cooling solution, the 120mm fan, is going to be able to blow air inside of the case. So you're going to be sorted for keeping your case cool. So that's really neat. Now, if we turn the case around, I can give you a basic idea of what you're going to be doing with the routing. So all your fans and stuff like that, you're going to be routing around the back. You want to get as many cables out from inside of the case as possible. What you can do straight away when you get the case, you want to be splitting these up. So you've got a USB 3.0, you've got eSATA. Now you've got to think on the motherboard where they're going to go. If you're looking at the motherboard here, your USB and your eSATA are on the right hand side of the board. So you want to put these two together. Now you've also got your USB 2.0 somewhere. Okay, you've got your HD audio. Where's the USB 2.0? USB, HD audio. Now USB and HD audio are usually on the bottom edge of the motherboard, so you've got these coming down to the bottom as well. The ones that come to the side are your, the bottom right of the motherboard are your front panel, and finally your 1394 as well along the bottom. So everything apart from these goes to the bottom of the case, but because we're coming from here we have to route it down. Now a lot of the cables are very long, so what you might find you have to do is, for example, for these ones that are coming straight into one of these grommets here, you have to route them round. I would definitely recommend is you pick up a modular PSU like the Inwind Glacier 900. What that essentially says is that even if you have to eventually, in the off chance you have to replace your PSU, or you replace your motherboard, or anything like that, you do not have to alter any of these cables. You can cable manage everything with the cable ties, providing everything works. Remember, test it first. Switch the computer on. Is it working? Yes. Then cable tie everything down. If everything's working, just tie it up. Make it neat. You're never going to have to do it again. If you have to replace the PSU, you don't have to remove the cables because they're modular. So I definitely recommend picking up a modular PSU, but cable managing is one of the most important things on a case. I'm not going to be putting into this case myself, as I don't have a computer to build into it at the moment, but eventually it's going to be my streaming PC. So I guess that pretty much wraps up the inside of the case. Obviously here you've got your optical bays that you just push in from the front. Have I missed anything? No. So let's get to my summary, shall we? Okay, so to my final thoughts on the Inwind Dragon Rider White Limited Edition case. Overall, very pleased with it. It came well packaged, was never a worry about it being damaged in transit, and for the price you pay, I think you get a plethora of features, an excess amount. Things I'm most happy with, gotta say, is having the 8 mainboard expansion slots. I personally won't use them myself, but I know some people do have dual or tri fire or slice setups, so that's definitely going to come in useful. And I really like the fan on the right panel as well, behind the CPU. I think for some people the additional width of the case could be an issue, but for me I would definitely take that additional cooling over additional width worries, that's for sure. The other thing with the fans is there's a lot of room for expansion, a total of 11 maximum. That's 6 on the front, the 6 on the left hand side, instead of the single 220. And to touch on this a little bit more, what I would have liked to have seen would have been a window panel with 120mm fans by default to show off the limited edition case and everything inside of it. And what I mean by that is maybe the two 120mm fans could have had a window and then have 420mm below that, or 220 above a window and 2 below. I'm not sure, but either way I would have liked to have perhaps seen a window as well as a fan controller, rather than just using it on the motherboard and then having all of them go directly to the PSU. But really that is nitpicking, and considering the amount you save on a case with this many features, I'm fairly confident you could buy a relatively cheap fan controller and do that all yourself, considering there are a total of 5 bays on the front. The toolless solution is also awesome if you're using the computer at home. Like I said within the video, if you are going to events, you are going to want to use screws or buy a security system from all good retailers that you can tie your USB cables together, and also make sure that nobody can get inside the case, because thumb screws, although great and should be on every case by default, are a little bit of a security risk at events itself. The only thing I have an issue with is the 220mm side fan on the left panel, not only because of the window thing I spoke about, but more, I'm not entirely sure if there's enough clearance for some of the larger heatsinks, particularly the Noctua NHD14 that I have on my i7-920. Like I say, you can switch it out for a slimline fan, or even switch it out for the 120mm fans and put them in around the heatsink. It's not going to be a problem, but just bear that in mind if you are going to pick up the case. Overall, I'm going to have to award this a gold star for Team Infused and InWin, and I definitely recommend this case if you are looking to either switch your current build into a new larger system or build a new system from scratch. With all the Ivy Bridge i7 3770s coming along, and even at the end of the year the e-Ivy Bridge, now's the time to think about upgrading. Obviously next year we've got even more processors coming out, but definitely check it out, guys. Thanks for watching. I've been MVC. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe to the Infused YouTube if you do enjoy the content, and I'll see you all next time.